Did you know that the largest T-Rex skeleton ever discovered was named Sue? Dinosaurs have become some of the most out there animals ever to have lived on this planet. While it's fun to imagine a world where dinosaurs and humans are alive during the same period, it's probably not the best idea. We've all seen how it goes in Jurassic Park. The next best thing is to learn all we can about these ancient reptiles and sit back and let our imagination run wild. We have decided to give you a helping hand and have researched and written the best 100 dinosaur facts that you can imagine. First, dinosaurs have been around for more than 230 million years. The majority of life on Earth vanished some 250 million years ago, and within the following 10 million years or so, dinosaurs started to emerge. Although it's uncertain exactly when dinosaurs first appeared on Earth, we do know that it was between 230 and 245 million years ago. Dinosaurs lived during Mesozoic era. The Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods make up the Mesozoic era, which roughly spans the period from 245 to 66 million years ago. Dinosaurs began to change in the Triassic period, multiplied and became more diverse in the Jurassic period, continued to change during the Cretaceous period, and then, they pretty much simply died off. 3. They evolved from reptiles the size of house cats. Dinosaur morphs were small, swift reptiles that multiplied and dispersed swiftly between 245 and 242 million years ago. They were too little to ever come close to being at the top of the food chain, yet they were quick enough to outrun predators for long enough for dinosaurs to develop from them. 4. Dinosaurs are still alive and with us today. But unless you happen to be deadly scared of chickens, don't run and scream for help. In actuality, every bird, even the common hummingbird, is a descendant of dinosaur. The non-avian dinosaurs are all died out, but the avian dinosaurs over millions of years evolved into birds. 5. Pterodactyls are not actually dinosaurs. All other reptiles with wings that resemble dinosaurs, including pterodactyls, are categorized as pterosaurs, rather than being members of the dinosaur family. Even though pterosaurs splits off from the archosaurs, their relationship to dinosaurs is not very close. Dinosaurs split into two main categories. Simply put, a dinosaur is either an ornithischian, Greek for bird-hipped, or a saurischian, English for lizard-hipped. It is ironic that while the bird-hipped dinosaurs all perished, the lizard-hipped dinosaurs are more frequently connected to present birds. 7. The first dinosaur was named before we even knew dinosaurs exist. Professor of geology at Oxford University William Buckland discovered an animal skeleton in 1815 that had never been seen before. He gave it the Greek name Megalosaurus, which means big lizard, after concluding that it was some long extinct species of reptile. 8. Dinosaurs were only classified in 1842. Iguanodon, a new iguana-like skeleton that a geologist and his wife unearthed in Sussex, England, was discovered just 7 years after Buckland discovered the Megalosaurus. As further fossils were discovered, Sir Richard Owen, who would later build the Natural History Museum in London, categorized the fossils as being part of the Dinosauria family, which is Greek for terrible lizard. 9. Dinosaurs weren't named as such because they inspired terror. Sir Richard Owen used the word terrible in a different context when he gave dinosaurs their name. He called them fearfully great, meaning they were much bigger than any reptiles he had ever seen before. Maybe he would have meant it more literally if the first fossil he discovered had been a T-Rex. 10. When the iguanodon was first reconstructed, its thumb was placed on top of its nose. We didn't understand the long spiky thumb was actually a strange thumb-like digit until 40 years later, in 1878, when more iguanodon skeletons were found. Although it may have been for self-defense, paleontologists have yet to come up with a clear explanation for why iguanodons evolved such long, spiky thumbs. 11. The Megalosaurus was so popular in the 19th century that Charles Dickens included it in one of his novels. The famed British author Charles Dickens imagined what it might be like to come upon a Megalosaurus waddling through the streets of London in the first few lines of Bleak House. Amazingly, Dickens did not portray the Megalosaurus in a menacing way, referring to it instead as an elephantine lizard, despite its size and potential fury. 12. You can tell the difference between a dinosaur fossil and a stone by licking it. Even if it doesn't seem like the most ethical method, paleontologists can find themselves using it frequently. Because fossils are more porous than stones, if you lick a possible fossil, it will barely stick to your tongue. 13. More than 900 different dinosaurs roamed the earth. From this point on, suppose that whenever we mention dinosaurs, we are referring to non-avian dinosaurs because there is still plenty of birds around today. About 900 dinosaur species have been identified as legitimate, meaning they have enough fossilized remains to be certain of being real dinosaur species. There are actually many additional hypothetical species that lack sufficient proof, several of which have names. 14. Dinosaurs lived on all of Earth's continents. The Earth's continents were grouped together into one enormous supercontinent known as Pangaea when dinosaurs first appeared in the Triassic period about 230 million years ago. Pangaea gradually drifted apart over the 165 million years that dinosaurs continued to roam the world. This caused many dinosaur species to become isolated from one another. 15. The largest dinosaurs were the Titanosaurs, a subspecies of the herbivorous four-legged leviathans known as sauropods. The Titanosaurs had long necks and small heads. They trampled about pretty late, between 145 and 66 million years ago during the dinosaur era. Due to poorly preserved fossils, it is rather controversial which of them was the largest, but the Argentinosaurus is your best chance because it weighed 99 to 110 tons. 16. The smallest sauropod was only slightly heavier than a bull. The Europasaurus was a rather remarkable sauropod. Although it had many characteristics with its relatives, it never reached their enormous stature. Although it is still pretty long at 19.86 meters, it is not at all like its football pitch huge relatives. 17. Gallimimuses had beaks instead of teeth. In what is now Mongolia, a strange-looking theropod formerly walked in the earth in the late Cretaceous. Its name means chicken mimic, but in reality it looked more like a huge ostrich with limbs. 18. Most of the world's dinosaur fossils are found in three places. Some of the biggest concentrations of fossils, or at least those that are most readily available, are found in the high-altitude badlands of China, Argentina, and North America. The Earth is actually largely covered in fossils, but because there isn't much flora there, they can be discovered readily there. 19. Some pterosaurs were covered in fur. I don't know about you, but that doesn't make them seem any less scary. They would have appeared similar in many ways to a fruit bat, but at much larger scale. 20. Most fossilized dinosaur bones aren't actually bones anymore. The fossilization process most commonly happens when something gets trapped between layers of sediment or sand and remains there for millions of years. These remains then get surrounded by a layer of water which replaces the original organic material with various minerals, creating a rock-like copy. 21. Some dinosaurs were covered in feathers. Up until the 1990s, it was thought that all dinosaurs had thick scales covering them. similar to modern reptiles. Since then, additional proof has surfaced suggesting that theropods dinosaurs, a group, had feathered skin. Velociraptors, Tyrannosaurus rex, and the ancestors of modern birds are examples of the theropods. 22. Most dinosaurs weren't very brainy. Despite being extremely terrifying creatures, dinosaurs would have been very simple to outsmart due to their little brains. For instance, the Stegosaurus, whose body could reach a length of 29 feet 6 inches, had a lime-sized brain. 23. Two of the world's most famous paleontologists hated each other. Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope worked to change the low level of interest in paleontology in North America in the late 19th century. They were initially pals, but quickly turned against one another in a battle to establish who was the better scientist. In the end, both men may be considered to have lost and degraded themselves, but they effectively gave birth to the entire US paleontology scene in the process. 24. The smartest dinosaurs were all carnivores. Specifically, the predatory theropods were the ones to watch out for in prehistoric times. At the lower end of this group, the infamous T-Rex had a significantly larger brain than the herbivorous Stegosaurus. The smallest of all were the small, agile theropods like the Velociraptor or the Troodontids, which had similar brains to today's flightless birds. 25. The Nigersaurus replaced its teeth as often as every 14 days. This amazing sauropod has many rows of teeth stashed away in its mouth as a reserve. A row of teeth would fall out as they worn down, making room for the following row to erupt. 26. If it lives in water, it is not a dinosaur. Plesiosaurus were immediately categorized as some of the first remains of ancient reptiles, which were large monster beasts that appeared to have lived primarily underwater. Despite having a shared ancestor with dinosaurs, they are so distantly connected that they are nonetheless considered to be a separate species. 27. The dinosaur with the longest name was the Micropachycephalosaurus. Try repeating that without pausing at all. The Micropachycephalosaurus has an extraordinarily difficult and lengthy name for such a small dinosaur with 23 letters and 9 syllables. After all, its name means little thick-headed lizard in English. 28. We don't actually know what killed the dinosaurs, and we may never find out. One of the worst mass extinctions the planet has ever experienced occurred during the Cretaceous period, but since it occurred 66 million years ago, we may never be able to determine how it occurred. Nearly all non-avian dinosaurs perished at this period due to an asteroid collision with Earth just off the coast of Mexico. Although it's a plausible theory, there are many more as to why the dinosaurs perished, with climate change being the second most likely cause. 29. All four-legged dinosaurs were herbivorous. However, this doesn't imply that the herbivorous dinosaurs had 4 legs. Although that is a frequent myth, it turns out that quite a few herbivorous dinosaurs could get up and walk for a short while. 30. Dinosaurs didn't all go extinct at the same time either. The dinosaurs weren't all wiped out at once when the asteroid hit Earth. Instead, it most certainly set off a series of events that fundamentally altered the course of history. In fact, this didn't happen instantly, rather, it took several hundreds of perhaps thousands of years for all dinosaurs to become extinct except for the winged dinosaurs.